G'day, Keithy here. Thanks for joining. Oh, hang on, I've got to do the. G'day, Keithy here. Thanks for joining me. So in today's video, we're going to play around with Thermo Fans. I'm going to show you my bike that you probably didn't even know I had. Stick around for that.
Well, we couldn't go without checking this out.
Right, preparing it tires now. G'day, Keithy here. G'day, Keithy here. G'day, Keithy here. So there's still a bit going on at home. Things have been pretty quiet in terms of getting out, going forward driving and whatnot. But there's been a little bit happen, and I had what you would call plumbing guide come over and do some work. G'day, Mick. So come in and have a look. Oh, I should also mention, I want to say g'day to Brody and Katie and the kids. Avid watchers, avid fans. Good to see you here again. Hope you enjoy the video too. All right, we'll turn around and have a look in here and see what's going on. Okay, so a bit of a construction zone still in here. So as before, all the tiles are gone. There's a couple of little bits here that I've just got to level out the ground, and then I can go and replace the drains and things like that and get a vanity in here. So you'll notice, if you watched the other video on what was happening with Keithy, this has all been capped here. So now I can put a vanity in this. So I've got a mixer. I've got a couple of mixers actually that are going to go. So one's going to go here, and this is where Plumbing God, aka Mick, comes in. G'day Mick if you're watching. Look at this artwork right here. I don't think there's a plumber in the history of plumbing that could do artwork like this. Now if anyone knows Mick, holy moly, look at all of this beautiful work right here. Look at this, like all of these were installed. This one here, no, that one down there. I actually had to cut up an old futon for that bit of timber. That was great. But either way, look at this beautiful artwork here. Now, Mick is a god among men when it comes to plumbing. So what we got going on here is he's tapped into the main line underneath the bath and come up through here. So we've got a mixer here, which is going to be for the bath tap. And then we've got another mixer here, which is obviously going to be for the shower. So that gets rid of the actual hot and cold knobs. You just use the mixer. So that'll be plenty of fun there. That's going to neaten this whole project up. And this is what I was waiting on before I started doing any more on the floor or the wall. So next step in here is to get all these wall sheets up. I'm going to get a couple of new power points as well, because these are fairly old and ugly looking. So I'll get a new light switch and a new power point for in here. And then, yeah, I can redo this whole wall and begin the tiling process. So that's going to be pretty fun. Stick around for that. We'll take you out to the garage now and show you what's going on. All right, so as you saw at the start of the video, I got the Thermo Fan out. So for those of you who don't know what this Thermo Fan's all about, I did, I think it was a 4-part series. I may have been 3 or 4, something like that. Anyway, I'll put the link up there. I'll put it up that side there, not that side there. So you can check that out if you're interested. But this Thermo Fan is now going back into the Range Rover here to replace this belt-driven fan. Why am I doing that? What is wrong with the belt-driven fan, you might ask? Well, nothing's wrong with the belt-driven fan. It spins, it does everything that it should, except on really hot days, which it is starting to get now. It's October in Townsville. I think it's going to be 33 degrees today. It's going to get up even higher than that. And given that I'm probably not going to be towing any heavy loads, I don't need the extra push of the belt fan, but I do need it for idle. This Thermo Fan here is a fantastic little jigaboo. At idle, it manages to keep this thing nice and cold, and that is the downfall of this the engine fan. The engine fan, when you're at idle, just doesn't have enough air coming through to keep everything cold, and that is because the air conditioning, obviously when it's really hot, the air conditioning is working really hard as well, so that's extra heat that fan just can't handle. At idle, if I don't have that aircon going, the fan's plenty enough. So the aircon, the system has that much heat that the poor old engine starts to get warm. It doesn't get hot, but it gets warm, and I don't like that. So if I'm idling it in a set of traffic lights or something like that, or stuck in traffic or whatever it may be, yeah, I don't want that getting that hot. So this Thermo Fan here is going to jump in for summertime, and when the camping season starts again, I can still go camping with this, but when the full-on camping season of 2022 starts again, I'll take the Thermo Fan off and we'll put the belt fan back on. I'll show you my bike as well now, because I'll give you a little tease of that before. So this is my bike. It's a 2008 Honda CRF 450X. 2008. She's in pretty good condition. At this stage, it's got about 5,000 Ks on it, so it's road registered, and that's the reason that I got it, so that I can ride it on the road. It's got a little dash in here, and speedo, and the mirrors fold up, and all that kind of stuff. I don't ride it all that often. Would you believe that those are the original tyres on it? So I'm not hard on it. Yeah, I've taken it off-road, and you can see there's a little bit of mud and stuff. I need to give it a bit of a bath, actually. But that was instrumental when I was doing the work on the Range Rover the other week with the exhaust headers, which, as you would have seen if you saw the video, that's all done and back together and looking as it should. But this was instrumental when I had to take those headers in to get repaired. Now, I don't know where you're from, but if you're from Australia, you'll know you need a bike license. So I've had my bike license for, since I got this thing. And that was just unreal. The funny thing is I actually had the reserve tank on that ride. Luckily, there was just enough fuel to get me into town, drop the headers off and then get back home. Very funny, but beautiful bike. And I can tell you, I'm not going to, but this thing starts first kick every time. And the only things I've ever had to do to this bike is change the air filter, change the oil, put some fuel in it. It is such a reliable bike. I know there's people out there who are like mad keen on KTMs or Yamahas or Kawasaki's or whatever it may be. But I tell you what, I love this Honda, and it's the first bike I've owned. And yeah, being, 13 odd years old now, I tell you what, I really do stand by the Honda reliability thing, because this bike will start first kick every time. Anyway, now what we got to do is getting hot. So yeah, I love working in the heat. I'm going to go and get this Thermo Fan in. So I'll have a chat to you while I put this Thermo Fan into the Range Rover. All right, so I designed this pretty easy. I'll just get this cable out of here so you can see. Come on, cable. Come on down. So I designed this to be pretty simple. Don't know if you can see that, but that's the cable that plugs into the Thermo Fan once it's all engaged. This here is the temperature gauge. So this is what the temperature for the Thermo Fan controller runs off in order to switch the fan on and off. It's a pretty good little simple setup, I should say. So yeah, again, if you haven't seen the series that I did on that and you're thinking of doing something like this for yourself, have a look up in that top corner there now and see if you can gain anything from that. Now, if you live in a hot environment, this is probably the best thing about it. Like I said before, there's nothing wrong with this fan. It's still very viscous. It does its job, but at idle, it's just not spinning fast enough on the super hot days to keep the aircon, the transmission, and the radiator nice and cool. The temperature just starts to creep up. So we're going to get this belt-driven fan off now, the viscous fan off, and we're going to put the Thermo Fan back in. It's that time of year, and that way, if we are sitting in traffic or whatever it may be, the thing's going to stay cool. The Thermo Fan does a fantastic job of keeping the car nice and cool. As I mentioned in the Thermo Fan series, and after all the testing that I did with the Thermo Fan as well, you'll know that towing a heavy load up a hill with not much airflow is the only downfall of the Thermo Fan. So that's something that I need to keep in mind. Mind you, I can tow a heavy load anywhere else, as long as I'm not going up a steep incline. The Thermo Fan's definitely enough to do the job. And now I've got this nice new alternator as well. Not that there was anything wrong with the old one. I know that I'm going to be able to power an extra 20 amps or whatever it is that the Thermo Fan draws without doing an alternator in the next couple of weeks. So that's a job I'm not going to have to do for some time to come. So let's get into it anyway. Oh, why did I park the car up so high? If you've never done the Thermo Fan, the viscous fan removal, it's that easy. It literally is that easy to get the fan out. When you're spinning it off, when it gets close to the end, you might want to hold it, because if it falls and drops forwards, it could get your radiator and damage that. The last thing you need is coolant coming out of your radiator, because then you're going to get it repaired or replaced. There we go, so the fan's off. Now I have to undo this shroud. I'm going to have to undo this top hose here and move it out of the way in order to get the rest of the show out of here and be able to in with the Thermo Fan. going to lose a little bit of coolant. Out with the fan. Out with the shroud. Nice and carefully, of course. Easy part, hard part, I don't know which one you want to call that. What I've got to do now is I've got to slide in the Thermo Fan and then screw it into the location points that I've got. Before I do that, I'm just going to get my hose out and just get this coolant off the motor and off all of the radiator and stuff like that, and just hose the ground a little bit so that when I do get underneath the car, it's not so sticky and coolanty. So, and just like that, I've already done the bottom ones, and the top ones are in as well. So the Thermo Fan's in. All I've got to do now is reconnect my temperature switch, and obviously I've got to put in the power for the fan right here, and we're good to go. All right, so the last step, that's all in and bolted down. I've got the temperature wire there, and obviously we've got the power wire for the fan motor there. So if you've watched the series, like I said, it's up there. It's pretty simple. It runs at low speed when I flick it on, and then when it gets to its preset temperature, it'll kick into high speed. Once it gets down, it'll go back to low speed. So that's the good thing about this fan. It's literally easy. I had to use no power tools. It took me maybe 20 minutes at the most. The worst thing about it was working on a wet floor. But yep, other than that, we've got this top hose back on here now. So as you can see, it's in. There's plenty of room in here. Heaps of room. So now, added benefit of this, I can actually take the fan belt off without having to remove the fan. That's pretty cool. Last thing to do is put the lid back on the coolant reservoir. I'm going to have to top that up just a little bit. Obviously I took this top hose off here, so I've lost a little bit of water, a little bit of coolant. So I'll top that up now, but you can still see it's sitting. It didn't lose much at all. It wouldn't have even been half a litre, but I'll top that up and we'll run it and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so for simplicity's sake, without the engine running, I'm going to show you how it works. You're going to be able to hear it. That's the thing that keeps me interested. But I will also jump in. I'll get the car up to temperature and I'll show you from the inside what it does. So now I'm going to go in. I'm going to put the fan into low speed mode, which it will always be in while the engine's running. And then I'm going to simulate high speed mode because I've got a manual override on my switch in there. Again, if you've seen the video, oh, it's that side. If you've seen the series that I did up on this, it's actually quite intelligent, this little setup here. I'm quite happy with it, except for the fact that I can't tow heavy loads up this really steep hill with it. But yeah, it's a fantastic little thing and it's going to maintain the temperature of this. And if you saw that series, the benefit of this fan is I'm going to save about 7 litres to the 100 in fuel consumption. Now, that's no lie, I did some testing with this. Having that fan in there actually saves quite a lot of fuel. So added summertime benefit, save a few bucks on fuel. And I'll show you in the next couple of videos how that actually equates at dollar signs compared to what I'd run normally with the belt fan about this time of year. All right, I'm going to go turn this fan on low speed as if it was normally running, and then I'm going to turn it on high speed so you can see the difference between low and high speed with this fan running. So it's pretty steady Eddie at the moment. A couple of cobwebs in there from not being used. That's low speed, so that's how the fan will run all the time. That's enough air right there to keep the car cool at idle, which also means that I don't have to worry when I'm stuck in traffic when I switch it to high speed mode. High speed, more cobwebs blowing around in there, coming out. As you can hear, there's a lot more airflow going through that now, which is fantastic. It's enough to keep this thing well and truly cool. Now I'm going to turn the car on and we're going to see how it performs. Okay, it's a bit hard for you to see this. It's very clear for me, but anyway. So that's 61 degrees right there according to the temperature coming through to the top of the radiator. And I'm going to refer back to that video again, up there, a series up there with the Thermo Fan installation, to remind you that the actual temperature inside the engine is 7 degrees warmer than this. So right now the actual temperature is going to be 70 degrees inside the block. So keep that in mind. So when the car warms up to a certain temperature, which I've got it set, the fan will kick in. So at present it's set at 88 degrees. I'm going to change that. We'll go the other way. So at 84 degrees, the fan will kick into high speed mode. So right now it's running off the switch in low speed mode. This is a 3-way switch, so if I put it into the center, the fan is off. Up the top, which I'm not going to do, the fan is running in high speed only. So I'll put it back on low speed and just let it run like that all day, every day. If it was an exceptionally cold day, I'd turn that off. You don't need the engine fan running at some stages. If I was on the highway, I would turn that off as well. So we're at 68 now, so we know that's about 75-ish degrees. So it's close to being hot, so the thermostat's just opening now. I could let this thing idle all day. It's not actually going to get hot enough for me to give you a demo. I may have to do one on the road. Anyway, I'll come back to you when this is a bit warmer and show you what happens when the fan kicks into high speed. Okay, so here we are. I've been sitting here for about 20 minutes idling, trying to get this thing hot. It hasn't even got 80 degrees. It's just bouncing between 79 and 78 degrees here in low speed with the fan in low speed mode. So when this goes to high speed, that little red light just on the corner here will kick in, and that will indicate that the fan's running in high speed. And as you can see here, the temperature's up at normal range. So normally when I'm driving around town or on the highway or anything like that, it sort of sits around that 79, 80 degree mark with the belt fan. And obviously at idle on hot days, that's when the temperature starts to rise. But yeah, as you can see here, the fan is significantly helping keep the car cool, and that aircon is always cool in this thing anyway. But with the constant airflow is slightly higher than the viscous fan, everything's running cooler because there's more airflow coming through. And in low speed, that fan's only using a couple of amps anyway. It's only using about 5 or 6 amps. So you can see all the Thermo Fan stuff, like I said in the video up there. Yeah, but it's an absolutely good thing this time of year, especially if I'm not going to be going towing heavy loads up hills. This is perfectly fine for trips away. If I don't have a trailer on, I can go anywhere at any speed with any load in the car and not have to worry about it. I can do water crossings and manually turn the fan off. I can manually make it run in high speed. So there's heaps going for this fan. I really do encourage you to watch that video series because there's heaps of information in there if you ever wanted to do something like that for yourself. And it sort of explains a little bit about why I did it. Now, like I said, there's not a problem with my viscous fan. That fan works fine as long as the revs are sort of up over 1200. So idling, slow, low range type stuff, that engine viscous fan is not enough to keep the engine nice and cool. I don't have to worry with this in here. I've got the temperature gauge, so I can see from my own gauge what the temperature is coming out. I've also got the nanocom if I really was worried about the temperature. But obviously when I installed this last year and did a lot of testing with it, I worked out that there's about a 7 degree difference between the engine temperature at the head and the engine temperature up where the fan takes its temperature. And that's very consistent. So I'm happy with where the temperatures are, and I can adjust the fan's high speed kick in as well. Great thing. So if you ever want to do it. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to my updates and all of that kind of stuff. G'day to the guys at work and g'day to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.